I don't know, guys. I got a bad feeling for Vasily Lomachenko against Tank. Obviously, this fight is being negotiated for and targeted for November and December at the end of the year. And I like the fight. Don't get me wrong. I want to see it. I just don't know if Lomachenko can pull this one off. But if he can and he proves me wrong, man, that'd be crazy. That would literally shock the world of boxing. And I'm not saying, you know, I'm sleeping on him. I think Lomachenko poses a lot of threats. I think Lomachenko years ago, that's a 50-50 fight. I think right now you gotta give an edge to Tank Davis, a significant edge. I'd say it's more of like a 52-48 kind of fight. Probably, you know, more than that. I'll probably go like, yeah. It's hard for me because Lomachenko has a level of experience that, you know, Tank has never dealt with before. You know, like I always say, the thing about Loma is that, you know, he's willing to do anything by any means necessary. Look at the Teofimo Lopez fight. As good as Teo did, I would argue, and I think a lot of you guys would agree, that Teo did a better job than Devin Haney against Vasily Lomachenko, made that win look a little bit more clean. You guys can say whatever you want about Vasily Lomachenko having that shoulder injury in the Teo fight. But you could also argue, you know, he wasn't as young as he was against Devin. He was an older version against Devin. So whatever you guys want to say, that was still Lomachenko, and I think Teo had a great performance. But let's remember when it got to those late rounds and Loma started to pick it up a little bit because he knew, you know, he had to do whatever it took out of desperation because he was definitely behind on the scorecards because of the early rounds that Teo had packed up and stacked together because Loma, as we know, is a slow starter. But when he started to get into his groove and turn it up a notch, the same way Tank has a tendency to do, he didn't really do it against Frank Martin. Tank was a little bit, you know, pressure, more of a pressure fighter, you know, early on, as opposed to those other fights where, you know, he waits a little bit and then, you know, tries to figure you out and then lands his big shot, sets a trap, and gets you out of there. So Loma, the thing about him in that Teo fight is that he was willing to rough up Loma. He was willing to rough up Teofimo Lopez, and that's something that I don't know if Shakur is able to do. I don't expect him to do. I think Shakur is gonna, you know, use that rangefinder. Obviously, he has a good jab, and at the same time, he uses it to kind of probe out there. Against Valdez, he kind of got warned. You know, you can't leave it out there, but Shakur is very good at keeping guys at bay, and if he's able to do that against a guy like Tank, that could pose a lot of threats. But for Lomachenko, he poses different kinds of threats. You know, the turning, the footwork, that kind of stuff is very good, and his ability to rough up somebody. You know, he might headbutt Tank if he needs to. He might throw a shoulder, might throw an elbow. He's not afraid to make the fight rugged. He's not afraid to make the fight dirty. It was something that Devin Haney was very cautious of going into that Loma fight, that he might try to pull these little dirty tactics. And honestly, you know, this is a sport of boxing. It's not a no contact sport. It's the complete opposite. So you're gonna get fights where it gets dirty, it gets rugged, it gets tough. You might get cut up, you might get a black eye because, you know, Loma's trying to headbutt you, stuff like that. So that's the small kind of stuff. You know, let's say early on Lomachenko causes a cut on Tank. You know, how does Tank deal with that? We've never really seen Tank with a big cut on him, and you know, how will he react? Does he, you know, fight with more emotion? Does he fight with more of a sense of urgency? Does that get him, you know, caught by something big? And I'm not saying I think that Lomachenko can stop Tank. I don't think that at all. But, you know, catch him off guard. Who knows? Lomachenko, the last thing to leave a fighter is his power. And Loma has some decent pop. So, you know, he definitely knows how to punch and move at the same time. That's something that a lot of fighters aren't able to do. Especially, you know, put your combinations together confidently and land, you know, those shots with conviction against Tank. That's what I want to see fighters do. You know, again, with Frank Martin had a lot of good moments, a lot of good counter shots against Tank, but never really threw anything and said, like, you know, I'm here. You better, you know, stay there. You better stay at bay because I'm hitting you with this. I'm hitting you with that. Bam, bam, combination after combination. There wasn't a lot of that from Frank Martin. It was just, you know, a few, you know, pop shots, but they were very few and far in between. I think that's why Tank wasn't giving him that respect. You really got to earn the respect from him and be hurting Tank. Not even like hurting him, but you really got to get his respect and land stuff clean, because when Tank is pressuring you and coming forward, it's a difficult fight for anybody, because fighting on the back foot and being effective is tough, because you can be on the back foot, but to also implement your offense so you're not losing rounds against a guy like Tank, who's constantly putting that pressure on and pushing the action, it's hard. It's not easy to do. There are very few fighters that can do it, and I think, you know, Shakur probably is the only fighter that can really do it. But I'm not going to count Lomachenko out in that fight. I just don't know how Loma fares with the power. I think we're probably going to see, if this fight is official, if it really does go down in November or December, I think that this could be the first time that, you know, we see Vasily Lomachenko get dropped multiple times in a fight, and probably going to get stopped against Tank. He's just too strong at 35. You guys got to remember, he's hurting guys that are like basically outgrowing the division of lightweight. You know, Frank Martin, I think he's ready to go to 140. I think he had a tough weight cut, and, you know, he's a strong 35, huge frame. Tank even said he was a very strong fighter when they were getting into the clinches during their fight, but Frank Martin, you know, couldn't handle the power of Tank, and I'm curious to see how Vasily Lomachenko fares with that power, because Tank really does hit hard, and I don't know if Lomachenko can afford to get hit by too much from Tank. I don't think that his chin, as good as it is, will be able to withstand you know, a really clean shot from Tank. I think Tank is he's just in that mode, and I know that, you know, Loma's gonna give him a competitive fight. I know that for a fact. It's just more so, can he take Tank's best shot? That's always the big question, because you're gonna get hit. You're gonna get hit at least once, unless you're a guy like Shakur Stevenson, who I believe, you know, if he has the perfect fight, the perfect game plan, he might come out of that fight unscathed. He might come out of there clean, you know, with a clean face, but it's not going to be easy. You know, this is going to be the most difficult fight of his life. And he, you know, Shakur has even openly said that he's willing to make it a boring fight. You know, he says, forget the fans, you know, I'm here to win. And I said this in a past video, but I'll say it again. Shakur needs to understand against Tank that no matter what, when that fight happens, and I think it should happen after the Lomachenko fight, that the fans aren't going to be rooting for him anyways. So honestly, just box, make it boring. If you got to, you know, stick and move and land your shots and then move off to the side and make it boring and clinch, tie up Tank, do whatever you have to do to win, honestly, because it's all about, you know, the win. You know, come out with the win by any means necessary. That's what I think Shakur has to do. But it's obviously easier said than done. But I think Shakur obviously has all the tools, has the arsenal to beat a guy like Tank. It's more so, you know, actually doing it. We have to see it. We can't just say Shakur does this, Shakur does that, Tank does this, Tank does that. They got to get in the ring and fight each other at the end of the day. I'm just curious to see, because Tank talked about that Shakur fight, and when he was asked about it, Tank kind of brushed it off and said, come on, man, like, you guys know what's going to happen in that fight. He kind of alluded to the fact that, you know, Shakur has a tendency to move a lot. He thinks that Shakur is going to run from him, and it would just be like, you know, chasing a chicken. That's what Tank thinks and was alluding to when talking about the Shakur fight. And, you know, he kind of said, I guess it's a good fight. So that tells me that Tank thinks he can beat Shakur, but he doesn't think it would, you know, be an exciting fight because of Shakur's style. I think honestly, Tank might like a fight with Teofimo Lopez more than he likes to fight with Shakur, but, you know, in order to solidify himself as one of the elite fighters at 35, and we all know he's elite, but we can't just say that Tank's elite because we think he's going to beat Shakur. You know, we're very confident he's going to beat Shakur, or you say that you're very confident he's going to beat Lomachenko. He still has to go out there and ultimately do it in the ring. We can't just live in these what ifs, because ultimately, you know, I thought Devin was going to beat Ryan, and that proved me wrong. But I also said that if Devin can negate the left hook, you know, he should have an easy time. But there wasn't an adjustment even from the first round when he got cracked. So it's all about making adjustments, but at the same time, what I'm really trying to get at is we have to see the fight happen. You know, that's my only, as good as Tank is, as much as I appreciate what he does in the ring and gives fans a good show, that's all great. And he's going to be a pay-per-view star for the next 5 to 6 years, but he has to fight Lomachenko and fight Shakur. It has to be, honestly, both of them. You know, you need to fight more so with Shakur than you do with Lomachenko. And I know we're probably going to get the Lomachenko fight first, and that's fine, but immediately after, it's got to be Shakur, because you're not going to get the credit from boxing purists as a great lightweight if you don't beat the other two guys in the that are at the top of the 135 division, and that's, you know, Lomachenko and Shakur. So he's got to do it in the ring, and I think those are fights that, you know, I favor Tank in. I expect him to beat Lomachenko. I favor him against Shakur, but it's a much closer fight than the Loma fight, especially at this point in Loma's career. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about Lomachenko and Tank. I think that I have to favor Tank in that fight, but it's a great one to watch. I'm excited. Stylistically, a very exciting fight. Two southpaws, both very talented and athletic, where, you know, one has a really crazy level of power and the other one's more so, you know, footwork guy and angles guy. Not to say that Tank doesn't have footwork, but, you know, Lomachenko has had that reputation for having, you know, superb footwork, where when he was little, his father took him out of boxing and made him do, you know, Russian dancing. So let's see how that plays out against a guy like Tank, who we know is coming with that firepower. But let me know in the comments, as always. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace. That's going to do it for another Naz Fight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Man Nabong, with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.